Hello, here we are, back in the United States of America.
Hi everybody. Sorry about last week. Honestly, with all the time zone changes, we were in Vietnam and we just actually totally forgot to log in at the right time. But if you checked my Facebook and you're looking for it, you may have noticed we did an extended 45th Fu on my Culture Chat podcast, both on YouTube and on my iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. So that was like an hour.
Right.
Maybe more.
So
that's like plenty enough 45th Fu for you guys to hold you over.
It actually was really good. I was fascinated listening to us speak.
Yes. So that one actually, we had a lot of really cool subjects in there. We went over pretty much like the beginning from when we started 45th Fu till now. We kind of went over a lot of those topics, like not being as flexible or strong or as having not enough endurance as you get older and stuff. So we went into like a lot more detail. So if you really love this, you can check that out. We'll link it here for you again. But hopefully that held you over. And the week before that, obviously we were in China.
Yeah, so we were in China. Let's say we were in our Asia tour for 3 weeks. And we did well the first Tuesday because we had internet connection and we still remembered the time zone. And then after that, we just kind of lost track of time. So we missed one.
Well, we also couldn't because we were on a bus.
Actually, yeah, we were on a bus going to the Shaolin International Festival.
That's right.
And then the next week that we missed, we were in Vietnam, and we had that one we just totally forgot.
Yeah.
So, but to your point, had a 1 hour 45th Fu episode on your podcast, which, as I already mentioned, I listened to, and I was like, man, these two people know what they're talking about. I was fascinated by this one person, Mimi, and this other one, Oscar.
You were the one who really knew what you were talking about. I was just kind of along for the ride. But today, since we just got back, we literally just got back late last night, and we thought since we were traveling and we're also just getting back, and I'm gonna be honest, not to make you all jealous, but we ate pretty good while we were gone.
Food was amazing. And you know what's funny is when you're eating really good food and you're in another country. Okay, so normally what happens is when I'm here, I'm in the United States, right? And we have a meal and we're eating it. And there's times where I could say, you know what? This isn't the last time I'm going to have this. I'm going to have this food again. It's fine. I don't need to overeat. But whenever we're in China, for some reason, I'm like, hey man, who knows when the next time we're going to be back here? Let me just keep eating as much as I can.
Yeah, so far the last 6 years, it's been every 2 years.
But we don't know because we may not go in 2 years again. So it may be a 3 year.
Right. And one of our favorite places, I'm going to give them an actual shout out now, is called Cam's Roast Goose, and that is in Hong Kong. So if any of you are ever in Hong Kong, get there early because there's always a long line outside. But we happen to know the owners.
That always helps.
We had the most fabulous meal, and I am going to blog all about it. So if you do follow my blog also, get ready for pictures, and really if you want to be jealous, then you can check it out. I also did a podcast with the owner on Culture Chat, so you can check that out as well. So much to talk about, but we did eat really well, and so that's why we're like further away from the camera today to kind of give you that perspective so that you don't see how much weight we gained. But so we thought today we would talk about one is how to control yourself while you're traveling, and also like we've noticed like as we've gotten a little older, we've had to kind of taper back, eat a little less, or if we do, like how we can try to stay fit while we're on the road in hotel rooms on a crazy schedule. Yeah. I mean, sometimes we would leave at like 6:30 in the morning and not get home till like 11 at night, just being on tour, doing tournaments. So it was like, how do you find the time to still work out, to still kind of get you so that you're not so off track? This was over 3 weeks,
right.
And then coming back, what our plan is to get back on track.
Yeah. So this is going to sound like a broken record, but one of the things
records are these things that used to play. Well, no, if you're over 40, you know, right?
Which I've said many times as far as things that you can do is joint mobility. So if you look back 2 episodes, we broke it down into two parts, upper body and lower body, full joint mobility routine, but trying to throw that in throughout the day. Whenever we had time, if we were on a long bus ride, doing wrist and elbows and knees and ankles. If we're standing, trying to get the shoulders moving and hips moving. Just kind of sprinkling that throughout the day. And so that can maintain your joint health. And the other thing which I like to do is just throughout the day is some isometric contractions. So I will demonstrate right now. If I'm standing here, I'm gonna brace, squeeze my abs tight, squeeze my butt, squeeze my fists, squeeze my fists really tight, and kind of spread that out in like little bursts of maybe like 10 to 15 seconds of tension and then relaxing. And that's kind of what I did. Honestly, that's the most that I did as far as my training while we were on vacation. Because I did a lot of joint mobility work when I woke up and throughout the day and before bed. And then if I was standing up, I would do a lot of things where I would try to get my posture, get a little bit straighter, and then do a lot of bracing tension. So I may have looked weird for about 15 seconds where I'm just there squeezing, almost like a standing plank, and then shaking it off.
That's okay. I think people are used to seeing you look weird. We
Yeah.
were also on a bus with a bunch of kung fu people, and I think they're used to it.
Right. So
Hi, Kit.
So those are two ways that you're able to stay in shape when you're traveling, but also if you're always busy. So we get the excuse of like, I'm not able to exercise or do any kind of training because I don't have the time. Just trying to find the time throughout the day, even when you have this hectic schedule, doesn't mean that you're traveling. It could be just your day-to-day, is a way to maintain what you have. So that's my
I did want to
thoughts on that.
mention, so when I was younger, I was obviously shorter as well, but like when I was younger, like even in my 20s, maybe I'm getting shorter now, but I would go on flights and I never really had any joint pain or pain after I would get off a flight, even going to China or somewhere far. Now I notice when I'm on a plane or on a bus where like my knees can't stretch and I can't be in all these kind of positions and moving around a lot, I get this kind of pain in my leg. And I told you one day that like I noticed it was kind of tweaky, and when I did that joint mobility, just kind of reinforced that, and I did the cars.
Yes, controlled articular rotations. Basically joint circles.
But you know, with very specific like angles, and you know, he's done that, I think 3 episodes ago you did excuse me, a full joint mobility, and so you can look that up. And when I did that, I noticed like within that day it kind of went away.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone to kind of go, oh, you know, I can't travel anymore because I just can't take the flights or the bus rides. Like there are things you can do as we all age that can help our bodies get in better shape to travel. So
Right.
I did notice though that, you know, now when I sit on those, I mean, the longest leg was like 13 and a half
Right.
hours, and then it took over like 24 to 30 hours to even get over to Asia, like by the time you do stops and everything. So, you know, Oscar doesn't really care. At the airport, he's literally like up against the wall doing all this number, and he's like on the floor. We had 6 hours in Korea, in Seoul, at a layover, and he pretty much like walked the entire terminal, several laps, with a backpack, and then he also was doing stretching in the middle of the floor. So if you don't mind looking a little odd, it's so much better to take care of your body. So, but I did notice that while I was sitting on the plane and then just doing that movement, the cars, it really actually did alleviate that, and it didn't stress me out like, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to go up the Great Wall, or am I going to do all these things because I'm feeling tweaky. Like if you just realize like your body's indicators of pain it doesn't mean you're necessarily injured, but like, okay, what can we do to kind of work it back, and how can we kind of ease up on that? So I don't know if you have any more comments on that.
Well, specifically when you're on that long plane ride, and you know those seats can get a little bit cramped. There's a few things you should do. One is wear compression socks to help kind of get that blood flow going back up your legs. And then the other thing is you're restricted, so you can't really move your arms and your legs too much, but you can pump your feet up and down, almost like little mini calf raises on the floor, and that helps a lot getting things done. Moving your ankles, moving your wrists, and then what I always travel with is a lacrosse ball, which I kind of stick in different places, and I roll around, even grab it and roll my pecs out, moving your neck side to side. But as far as like things to do strength training wise, when you're sitting there is the same type of isometric contraction. So bracing your abs, squeezing your butt a little bit. You can maintain it for long periods of time, but if every hour or so you just do it for a few seconds at a time, that'll help. I have also a grip trainer that I do, and I squeeze every hour.
What is it called? Captains of Crush? I always call it Captain Crunch, and that's wrong.
Yeah, my favorite one is the Captains of Crush trainer, which you can do. It's a little bit harder than a normal gripper, but it's good for training. And so I try every hour on the hour when I'm traveling on those to squeeze it 10 times each arm. And then, I know this may be a little bit overboard, but I have a little rubber band in my book bag, which I stick in my fingers, and I also work the extension. So we're working the flexors of the forearm and the extension. If you think about it, I talked about this, I don't know how many episodes ago, but sometimes just being a little bit jittery is a great way to burn calories and
fidgety.
Yeah, a little bit fidgety, and gets a little bit of blood flow going when you're in those long flights. So.
Yeah, and so, we were on a Kung Fu tour. It doesn't mean that we got to do Kung Fu every day, but what was nice was if we did have, like an hour or so where I knew we would have some downtime at the hotel, like literally I took all the students and I said, okay guys, we're going to do a full-on warm-up, and we did some warm-ups,
Yep.
We did some joint stuff, we did a little bit of our Kung Fu breathing and training, and literally one day it was like in the lobby of the hotel, like kind of around the corner, and I'm not sure they love that, but you know what, we had to kind of prep and prime ourselves for a tournament that was happening in, within 2 days, and at that point no one really had an opportunity to really work out or do anything because it was such an arduous schedule. So I know a lot of you do travel, and I know as you get older everything starts to kind of give you a little bit more, your body gives you much more feedback.
Yeah.
Like I said, I never used to feel my knees feel funny if it's just been in one position for a long time, and I've definitely felt that as I've gotten older. So that's something that I think that we could be aware of. But also by the end of the trip, because we do have sort of a regiment when we're here, we do Kung Fu class, we do our fitness training and power strength training, but I did feel like, ladies, okay, I'm feeling a little soft in the posterior chain area, and I was not liking that. I used to do gymnastics when I was younger, so I never really had these issues, and being in buses for long periods of time, sitting a lot more than I was able to, because literally on the bus, I don't know if you guys have ever been to China or Vietnam, but I wouldn't advise you to try to walk around on a bus while you're driving in those highways, or the driving is insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, sitting down too much, not doing my horse dances and stuff, just my whole body didn't feel good. And I asked Oscar, I'm like, okay, we're definitely gonna walk, because we have to walk to see this place and go here and go there, whatever. Like, what can I do while I'm walking at the very least? I wasn't gonna do kneeling horse dance walk down the street because we couldn't have time, but he did tell me to be active in thinking about this part of my body. So maybe you can kind of talk about that, because at the very least, even if you're at a hotel conference or something, you have to walk from A to B, take the stairs, but while you're taking the stairs and while you're walking, I think you can walk with some intention, and you kind of gave me some cues, and that did make me feel a bit better. I mean, obviously now that I'm home, I have to get back on a regiment, but it did help me.
So I think the word is intention, right? To move with intention. If you're doing a long walk, right, it's not feasible and probably not likely that you're going to be able to be like, I'm going to walk and be stiff the whole time. But you can say, there were some places where we were walking, and it was the Longmen Grottos, which is beautiful carved out hills with thousands of Buddhas. And so we were walking, and I was like, well, you know what, from here to this next statue, what you can do is, for those next 20 steps or so, is that each step, when you're stepping forward, to really try to squeeze your butt and think of feeling the whole surface of your foot on the floor for each step, and do that for 10 to 20 steps, and then just try to walk normally. And then we got to go up the stairs to see this other big statue, then you know what, you can either race up the stairs, which I did sometimes.
I never did that.
I'm going to run up the stairs as fast as I can, or I'm going to slowly take each step and really put all the weight on one leg and push down, almost like I'm doing a one-leg squat, right? Or like a half squat.
I did do that.
So again, it's not realistic that you're going to do that the whole day because you're just going to wear yourself out, but you can put those little bursts of exercise throughout the day. And I think that's a nice way to kind of maintain. And also you just feel better because you're not trudging. To trudge You're not just kind of like walking the whole day,
Or
but if you're with drudgery, right? So that this way you can have like, it's almost like little mini obstacle courses you're giving yourself. You're like, you know what, from here to there, I'm gonna walk with a little bit of intention. Now that we're standing here, I'm gonna
try to run into the elevator right as it's closing. No.
Right. Well, you hit someone first. Or I'm gonna stand here. I'm gonna try to get as tall as I can. My posture, push my feet into the ground, top of the head reaching for the ceiling for the next 30 seconds. Okay, and then relax.
Right.
So again, it's just trying to find and be curious and almost adventurous about it. I think that helps.
Definitely, definitely. So, those were just some of the tips I thought we could talk about. Honestly, we got back late. We were a little bit jet lagged. We were a little bit off schedule. Yeah. I'm allergic to China because of the pollution and the smoke there. I'm still not quite myself, but it's been really good to actually verbalize, like, okay, now we are going to get back on track.
Right.
Now that we're here, the first thing we're doing is addressing the eating. So we're no longer going to have that lovely roast goose. We can't anyway, it's not available here. So that's helpful. But also we're like just dosing ourselves with, I went to the store today, bought all my veggies and making soups, and just kind of like you're giving yourself, even if you're not sick, like a bit of a detox, a nice treatment when you get home. Because when you eat out every day, as we did for 3 weeks, there's just so much more in the food that you're not used to.
You don't even know what's in there.
Oil-wise, and it's China, so God knows what was in there.
A lot of mystery meats.
A lot of mystery meats, But yeah, it's good to go home and just go to the grocery store, stay on the outer rim, do a detox, kind of take care of yourself. And I think just that self-care is really important. But definitely, I will admit, as I get older, the long flights and everything just affect me more, and it takes your toll. I need more sleep than I used to. So part of it is also planning. So when you do plan to take trips, or you have business trips, really trying to plan out your time and your management of sleep. And when you get home, carve out some time for yourself as well, because I'm gonna need like 3 weeks of recovery.
So a few things too, right? I try to do this, and it's not 100% successful, but when I know that the trip is ending, I almost end the trip a little bit earlier in my mind, right? So I start really focusing on my portion control, right? So like I'll take Vietnam, for example. We were there for about 4 or 5 days, and the first few days, I'm just eating and enjoying, and I started noticing, I was like, you know what? I'm a little bit of overdoing it, because I was really enjoying the food. But a couple of days before we started heading back, I started just cutting my portions, to really paying attention to my satiety and saying, all right, I'm full, I don't need it anymore. I would fast sometimes in the morning. I started really upping the intake of water. And then as soon as we got back here, the first thing we did is just drink a ton of water. First few meals have been just like some soup, some chicken soup, some just vegetables.
Jamaican pumpkin soup.
Yeah, some rice, some basic things like that.
Which, by the way, on a preparatory thing, before the trip, I actually made some of this and froze it so that when I got home, knowing I would be jet lagged and tired and whatever, all I had to do was quickly defrost that, and it was like ready to go. So what I mean by planning is also, you kind of have to think about when you get home how tired you are. The grocery store may not be open by the time you get home. You're jet lagged. It was like almost 30 hours of traveling coming back, and so you're really not in the mood to try to,
But that's a macro version of day to day, of every single day, because every day or every week something may happen. So the more you can think about, hey, what are some of the obstacles that I'm going to be facing in the upcoming day, or this coming week, or this month, and then trying to plan a little bit ahead of it. Then when real life happens, which happens to all of us, then you're more prepared for it, and you won't be kind of forced to make decisions that are detrimental to your health, but also that that it gives you more options. So you have more options to choose the right things.
Yeah. So that's it. That's all I got, because in my head it's like 7 a.m, or I don't know. We're still a little turned around, but we just wanted to share with you a little bit about our trip, but also kind of what we did while we were on the trip. Honestly, we wanted to podcast this while on the trip. We had some of the guys with us on the trip. We wanted to do like fitness in the hotel room. We did on the first day, show you that second part of the mobility, and we carved out some space, but it was really challenging. So, but we thought we would share with you some of the things that we noticed this time around, being over 40 now, that were different for me, and hopefully that you took some good cues from that and take some of that, especially those of you who do travel a lot, either for work or for pleasure.
Sorry, I'm just
standing plank.
tensing a little bit right before we finish because we're about to have dinner. So,
But it's just soup and watercress.
but something as simple as that, just throw it in throughout the day. You'll be surprised that it can be a little bit fatiguing and that you get a little bit of exercise. So
Then you won't feel as guilty.
yes. So
It's all about the guilt.
next week we don't know what we're talking about, but we're open
No
to
idea.
suggestions.
Open to suggestions. Ask some questions.
Yeah. We can make it up as we go along, as always. Whatever you want to hear about, kung fu, fitness, food, sleeping, traveling, I don't know, whatever you want. We'll talk about it.
All right. Thanks for joining us on 4C Fit Fu. Again, I'm going to link all the stuff that we just talked about. There's some cool things, but also the podcast, the extended version of 40 Fit Fu, which was, like I said, much more detailed than these small ones. And I really want everyone to check it out on YouTube and on the podcast, whichever way you'd like to listen or watch. And see you next week.
That's it.
再见。